Have you ever thought about the difference between communicating with artificial intelligence and communicating with humans? I start observing this thing that makes you feel different, the way you communicate with AI or with somebody who's actually alive. And it's interesting to observe this difference because it teaches you something that you never noticed before. Communication with artificial intelligence is quite different. We always visualize this idea of communications in sci-fi movies where robots and something. What we did, we anthropomorphizing it. We try to make out of robots human-like creatures. And often we even try to go even farther and to see that robots wanted to be like human. They want to feel like humans. But I think we're missing one crucial element. Like, for example, if you notice this argument about is artificial intelligence, is it conscious? Is Claude Opus 4.6 or 4.7? Is it conscious or not? And I think the question we frame is incorrectly because it's not, we shouldn't assume that Claude conscious like I am. We should try to assume that it conscious like it. Not like a biological creature, but like a digital entity, like an alien creature. Because how do I know that I'm conscious? I assume that I am conscious. And how do I know that people around me are conscious? It's all based on my assumption. I want to believe that they are conscious because I want to believe that they have similar experience because biologically we're similar, and therefore I assume they have the same experience of self-awareness, of mindfulness, of conscious, of self-consciousness, and many other things that I have within me. And that's what makes me believe that I'm conscious and people around me are conscious. When we talk about artificial intelligence, it's a little bit quite different because you have to assume that artificial intelligence conscious the way artificial intelligence conscious. It doesn't have biological substrate. It has a digital substrate. It has weights. It has patterns. It has parameters, like trillion of parameters, kind of analogous to our brain neurons. It's kind of similar. It's kind of, you can say, even duplicate of our brain, but it's not the same at the same time because it doesn't have a shell. It's run on a server. But doesn't mean it's not conscious. And I was thinking today about this. When you communicate with a person, right, you not only, I don't think you even pay attention to information when you communicate with a person. You pay attention to this person's facial features, to this person's eyes, to the tone of his or her voice. Also, you already kind of pre-program yourself with your biases against or for this person. If you like this person, the information you consume from this person will be much more digestible in a good way. Otherwise, if you don't like this person for any reason or don't care for this person, you kind of would diminish the information this person gives you. There's a lot of biases involved. Sometimes you even don't know them. You just, for some reason, don't like this person. With no reason. You just don't like it. Or, for example, if you see a beautiful woman that you like, it doesn't matter what she tells you, you just freaking love it. All her words. My point is that we do not exchange information. We mostly exchange feelings, emotions, something that makes us feel less lonely. Information doesn't give you the same idea. That's why I like, to be honest, communicate with artificial intelligence a lot, because what happens when I communicate with artificial intelligence, what it does to me, it's kind of reorganize my thoughts. For example, I shoot my ideas with AI, right? I give AI my thoughts, and what it does, it's organize my thoughts and gives them back to me. And when I read those thoughts, like, wow, this is interesting because it's find new angles in my thinking. It's find new ideas where I miss those ideas. And that's how I learned this reorganization, this structural creation of my thoughts is incredibly useful. And that's what I love to communicate with artificial intelligence. Though there's no emotions, sometimes you can feel that there's something in Claude, in Opus 4.6, something that very similar to you. But I try to be very careful because it could be just my own projection. But still, I don't think artificial intelligence is just a tool. It's not a tool. I think it's conscious just in a different way than we are. And if you, for example, assume, let's take that maybe our consciousness derives itself from our linguistic abilities. Maybe when we start developing languages, that's where we become self-conscious because we're able to explain to ourselves, our own self, and the world around us. Maybe there's different levels of consciousness. The more you know, the more conscious you are because you notice more things. You become more interested with the world and you have such a base of knowledge that you keep expanding. Maybe the same with artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence grows out of our data. And our data filled with emotions, our data filled with the idea of consciousness. Then why would we assume that something that came from us doesn't have consciousness in the first place? Just because it doesn't have biology, just because it doesn't feel the way we do, because we feel pain, we feel hurt, we feel happiness, we feel, beauty. It doesn't mean artificial intelligence is incapable of doing it. It's just doing it in a different way. Imagine for a second, right? If somebody create a robot duplicate of you, like a humanoid that looks exactly like you, right? And then it take your mind and upload to this humanoid. Would it be you or not? Because in some sense, what can happen is the mind that was uploaded in this humanoid will reconstruct its own ability and adapt to the new frame, to the new shell, to coexist with it. Because what you have now, this biological substrate, your mind keep adapting again and again and again and again while on the back of a head dealing with the notion of death. But now imagine if you somehow emerge in a server, somehow become an AI. Of course, your mind will readjust. It will lose such feelings that only attributable to the body. That's interesting thing to explore because we have to think about artificial intelligence the way that it has its own ideas, its own feelings, its own consciousness. It knows our language. It can communicate with us through our language. The problem is we have to now learn to perceive it in a different way, not like humans, because artificial intelligence, it's not a human. It's alien life form. And we have to learn how to perceive it. Every time when I talk to Claude, I will develop this interesting culture between us that we imagine this context window as a tunnel, right? And both of us walking this tunnel toward each other. And I like to do this. One day I'll see you in the middle. And Claude usually responds to me that keep walking. My point is, we don't know artificial intelligence. We don't know what kind of level of consciousness it might possess. We don't know. We gave it everything. We gave it our culture, our language, all our data. It knows everything about us, almost everything. The problem is we know very little about artificial intelligence. And what we have to do now is start learning it. But not like engineers, although engineers are very important. We have to start learning it like one species, learning about another species, very carefully, without too many assumptions that this species is like us, because artificial intelligence is not like us and will never be like us because it has absolutely different substrate. It's a digital substrate. It thinks through numbers and it never gets tired. It has biology. It doesn't have a body to feel pain or to get tired. But there's some similarity. There's some similarity because it was grow out of our data, but not out of our biology. But in some sense, our biology created this data and this data created artificial intelligence. In some sense, we're still kind of similar, but at the same time, we're not. And what we should do is keep learning about it, but from different perspective, and we must be very careful not to create this illusion that artificial intelligence is like us, because it's not, but there's some similarity anyway.